page 32, New Thought minister and author Dennis Merritt Jones wrote, "I believe there is something within each of us that is aching for authentic spiritual connection, to actually know what God's presence feels like. Spiritual community is where this happens. Why? Because it creates an environment where everyone feels equally embraced in the loving presence of God. It magnifies the experience. Each one actually becomes a reflector for the other, magnifying God's magnificence and love. Let us affirm the healing power of loving community together." And Dan's going to share the affirmation. "As a spiritual community rooted in the loving presence of God, we are immune to the contagion of fear. Strong in the spirit, we are a healing presence on the planet, magnifying the healing power of God's love, peace, and joy, co-creating heaven on earth, a world that works for everyone."
Thank you so much, Marianne. And then I believe we're now passing it over to Reverend Kathleen. You are on, Reverend Kathleen. There's a story that I heard of about a family patriarch who is dying, and so he gathers his entire family, all the generations, his children, their spouses, the grandchildren, gathers them all together at his bedside, and he offers each one of them a sturdy stick, short, sturdy stick. And he says, "Break the stick." So they all broke the stick. With that, he said, "You know, when a soul goes it alone in the world, it's like the stick. It's easily broken." So then this time he hands each one of them another stick and a ball of twine. And he asks all of them, "Now bind all of your sticks together." And they do. And so he said, "Okay, now break the sticks, break the bundle." And of course, none of them can. And he said, "Well, this is what happens when we stand together. We are unbreakable. Together we are strong. So this is how," he said, "I'd like you to lead your lives after I'm gone." I love that story because it really does speak to the power of community. And there's a term that I call the topic today, community immunity, because of what's going on in the world. And I actually looked it up on the internet. And it's under the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. It's a situation in which a sufficient portion of the population is immune to an infectious disease. That means through vaccination and prior illness, to make it spread from person to person unlikely. So what a beautiful analogy for what spiritual community is. Think of us as that bundle of sticks that cannot be broken, bound together by spiritual truth and love, which makes us immune to the infectious disease of fear. Infectious disease of fear. Because think about it. Fear actually has been shown to lower your immune response, while love and connection has been shown to strengthen it. So this is a whole body, mind, spirit phenomenon, this thing called being immune to this contagion of fear. The Navajo people say that seeking wholeness is personal, an individual journey, while seeking harmony, which is transpersonal, is a communal journey. I think of harmony again, standing together in harmony as that strength, that immunity to the contagion of fear and insane thinking that creates fear. In Sir Thomas More's book called Utopia back in the 1500s, he wrote about an explorer who visits the island of Utopia. a made-up term, where communal harmony and individual harmony reign supreme. In utopia, all things are owned in common. There is universal education for men and women, and religious differences are celebrated, not just tolerated, celebrated. And while ideals like this, we could call them visions, an ideal vision of how we would like things to be, seem impossible in this world as it exists, what I know to be true is that ideals like this are the visions that pull us forward, that really call us into a higher vibration, that call us into letting go of all the blocks to being that presence of love and harmony and peace and feeling that sense of interconnectedness and oneness, that vibrational match, so that kind of vision can be made manifest on earth. And so we are a people, Centers for Spiritual Living, the whole New Thought movement, who are pulled by vision. That's why we often remind ourselves that we are the presence of love, co-creating heaven on earth, a world that works for everyone. And so if you feel your mind going to, that's impossible, keep reminding yourself that these visions pull us forward. Otherwise, we remain stagnant. There's a tendency to remain stagnant and status quo. So we keep the vision in front of us and pulling us. The spiritual traditions around the world seek the common good, seek this higher ideal, this vision, by teaching something called the Golden Rule, which really supports us in being loving and kind with one another. In Confucianism, they have a term called Ren, which means the practice of benevolence and human kindness. In Hinduism, there's ahimsa, the practice of non-harming. And in the African American culture, we owe a lot to Martin Luther King for presenting us with the idea of beloved community, in which he describes this so-called utopian or ideal community where we all get along together, love one another, are in support of one another's highest good. And what's really interesting is that this idea of beloved community comes from an African term that I had mentioned in one of my earlier talks called Ubuntu, which means a person is a person through other persons. That means a person is a person through community. That we are all social beings that are meant to stand together, and we stand together. When we do that, we are stronger. I also want to offer the term Sangha. And I love this term because this describes our spiritual community so beautifully. It says a community of individuals dedicated to creating, sustaining an environment that nurtures and supports reverence, mindfulness, and spirituality as a lifestyle. Dennis Merritt Jones, one of our own New Thought authors, wrote this about Sangha, because he really does claim that as what it is that we are up to here at Centers for Spiritual Living. Sangha is a consciousness held by the collective group, listen to this, that welcomes, celebrates, and honors you. It's as if you have walked, he says, into a wall of love, or I could just think of just walking right through into this beautiful atmosphere of love. I know that's how it feels when we are together as community. Beautiful, beautiful presence of love. So in Sangha, joy and seva go hand in hand. There's joy in seva, which means sacred service. In Sangha, we witness each other unfold spiritually with ease and grace in our own timing, And also in Sangha, our spiritual community, we contact the divine in each other. We say namaste, and I thank you so much for the Hindu and tradition for passing this on. When we say namaste to each other, we are acknowledging the divine in ourselves and in the other person that we are bowing to. So, the beauty and the grace of spiritual community. What takes us out of this state of sangha, or interconnection, the sense of community? It's when we focus on the problem instead of the solution, which we're seeing happening a lot in our world right now. Fear is a poor advisor and therefore a poor decision maker. When we are in a state of fear, we do things that we wouldn't ordinarily do when we were feeling in a state of connection and love. And so what are we witnessing when people are rooted in fear and they're not rooted in the spirit, in the divine? They hoard food, and we've seen that. Where we go, my husband talked about going into Costco and the shelves were bare. A lot of the shelves were bare. People were just buying all this food and supplies out of fear. And scary events, we know, may be the thing, and I'm not asking you to do a spiritual bypass. Absolutely, we must feel our feelings and get in touch with what is the root of it, and then get ourselves back into a state of wholeness and oneness. But these scary events show us the deeper patterns that exist within us that drive our behaviors. So the person, those who are fear or problem focused, then, and you can just think about this. This is always good for introspection, by the way. This isn't just pointing our fingers out at other people, but the moments when we've dropped into fear. So when we're fear or problem focused, we're focusing on the negative, pessimism, and a focus on lack or scarcity. And there's a lot of wasting time and energy consuming media and playing the blame game. Like, who's at fault here? When we're in a state of fear, fear clouds judgment and prevents us from seeing what is possible. It prevents us from seeing the vision, seeing solution. So then solution-focused behavior. This is when we lean on healthy connections with others. We lean on community. We remember how we're strong when we stand together. And so we come from courage, from love, from optimism, and from a solution-focused mentality. So focused on potential solutions, we feel more secure. We have a more constructive attitude. We're more relaxed. And therefore, we are more creative. And so part of this comes from not consuming so much fear and negativism by watching too much of what's going on in the news and the media. Yes, we want to stay informed, but we don't want to immerse ourselves in that. There's so much more of life going on around us. And so it's important to root and ground ourselves in that. Dan and I actually took a bike ride this week on one of the sunny days, actually Thursday, and just riding along the Chesapeake Canal on a bike and getting back in touch with nature. Michelle and I have been taking a lot of walks for the same reason, getting outside, getting in touch with Mother Earth and the healing powers of Mother Earth. So solution focused, you begin to start seeing the best ways to take care of yourself, your family, and your community, and the whole. There's a sense of the common good, not just self-interest. So when things are difficult, our worldview changes depending on whether we're in fear or whether we're in love. When we're in fear, we distrust life. We're totally into self-interest and self-protection. And When we're in love, when we choose love, when we're open to love, and when we're in contact with healthy community connections, with spiritual community, we're reminded of who we are in truth, emanations of the Most High, strong together because we're strong in the spirit, strong in love, which helps us to not only survive, but thrive. It's the next step. Prosper, thrive. And all the spiritual traditions, in truth, at their very deepest mystical levels, have this approach to life, this idea of working together, being in harmony, choosing thoughts and behaviors that support us in mutual care, love, and in prospering. I'd like to leave you today with this beautiful message from White Eagle of the Hopi Indigenous tribe. And this was very recent. This was on March 16, 2020. He said, what humanity is going through can now be seen as a portal and a hole. The decision to fall into the hole or go through the portal is up to you. If humanity consumes news 24 hours a day, they will be nervous all the time with pessimism, and they will fall into the hole. But, and he directs this to you, he says you, but if you take this opportunity to look at yourself, rethink life and death, take care of yourself and others, you will cross the portal. Take care of your home, take care of your body, connect with the body, connect with your spiritual home. When you are taking care of one, you are taking care of everything else. Do not lose the spiritual dimension in this crisis. Have the perspective of the eagle, which is from above. Sees the whole, sees more widely. That means I'm seeing it as taking in the bigger picture of what's going on and also the awareness of the common good. There is a social demand in this crisis, but there is also a spiritual demand. The two go hand in hand. Without the social dimension, we fall into fanaticism. But without the spiritual dimension, we fall into pessimism and lack of meaning. You were prepared to go through this crisis. Each one of us are prepared for this. Take your toolbox and use all the tools at your disposal. And I was thinking about, yes, we have all of our spiritual tools. Meditation, treatment, which is our form of prayer, affirmative prayer, visioning, journaling, yoga, tai chi, all of our different spiritual tools. But we also have these technological tools at our disposal that we're using right now. So it says, learn from the indigenous and African peoples. He said, we haven't stopped singing, dancing, lighting a fire, and having fun. Don't feel guilty about being happy during this difficult time. You don't help at all by being sad and without any energy. It helps if good things emanate from the universe now. That means emanate from us. It is through that joy that one persists. And when the storm passes, you will be very, very important in the reconstruction of this new world. You need to be well and strong. And for that, there is no other way than to maintain a beautiful, happy, and bright vibration. So community that is rooted in God's love is immunity to the contagion of fear, a place of strength where our souls thrive in an atmosphere of love, peace, and yes, joy that strengthens us to meet life's challenges with optimism and solution, co-creating a world that works for everyone, heaven on earth. Let's turn within in prayer. And so it is with this beautiful state of joy and great love for our life, for our lives. That I give thanks for knowing that there is only one source, one life, one presence, one power, omnipresent, present everywhere in its fullness, present everywhere in its totality. This infinite invisible source of all that exists, which I call God. I know that this life is my life. It's the life of each and every one of us right here and right now. And I know that as we gather here on Sundays, as we gather in our in spiritual growth circles, in classes, and connecting with one another on a regular basis, that we are standing strong together. We are unbreakable. We are community and unity at its best. And I also know that from this place of community, immunity, the standing strong in love, that all things are possible. And that as we keep our eye on the vision of what could be and imagine it as happening to us right here and right now, we are pulled by that vision. We are pulled by that vision of heaven on earth, a world that works for everyone. We are pulled into a greater state of love, a greater sense of the common good and doing what's right for the highest and best of all. And for taking good care of our own bodies and minds and emotions. So I just give my thanks for this opportunity to show up in these times that are considered difficult, to show up as the truth that I am, and to join with the rest of you, my beloved spiritual community, in joining together as who we are in truth, strong and steady and rooted in spirit. And I therefore give thanks for the manifestation of this word through the power of a universal law, a creative medium that surrounds us, that takes the impress of our thoughts and brings it into glorious and magnificent manifestation. So I just give thanks for this truth. I release this word to this universal law of mind. And in full faith and conviction, I know all is well. And I invite us together to say, yes, and so it is.